Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So wonderful to be with you this morning. My name is, I am the Reverend William Levwood, affectionately known as Rev Lev. My pronouns are he and him, and I am the minister here at Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. It's my great privilege to be your minister. So as we begin our service this morning, if you're here in person, I remind you to silence your phones. And whether you're joining us in person or online, let's all center ourselves for worship by taking a deep breath together. We open and welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that our church, like all of Burke, rests on the unceded territory of the Manahoac tribe of the Great Sioux Nation. We seek healing and the realization of justice with the people of this land who live on in their descendants, the present-day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomic Indian Tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. We honor the ancestors as we move toward healing so that all together shall one day know justice.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Sheila Doles. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm happy to be your worship associate today. If you aren't new to Accotink, look around. Do you see people you haven't met or haven't spoken to in a while? These people like you and want to meet you. Help us live up to our mission to be a welcoming and inclusive spiritual home for all by reaching out and making a connection. By visiting this congregation, newcomers are in a transition moment, and people in transitions are more open to new friendships. That means that your new best friend might be here this morning, and this is your chance to get to them before someone else does. Whether you're a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we encourage you to stay for our social hour, online and in person, immediately after the service. We're so delighted that you decided to join us today. Welcome.
Right now, I invite you to rise again in body or in spirit. For our chalice lighting, we're going to again say the words of our mission statement. This is why we're here. This is what we do in this congregation. So let's say it all together. Together, we care in community. Together, we grow in spirit. Together, we act for justice. So you might have noticed that this is a third Sunday, or maybe you didn't, but this is the third Sunday of the month. And often that's a multi-generational service, but this month it isn't. But every month for the rest of the church year after this one, it will be. We do that because research shows that multi-generational experiences like multi-generational worship, like multi-generational service projects like our meal packing, which happens after church next week, are the single most effective thing we can do as a church community to impact the faith development of our children and youth as Unitarian Universalists, okay? So that's why we're going to do it like clockwork every third Sunday. It does also mean that if you really don't want to be here for that, I hope you will, whether you're a child, a youth, whether you're, however, it needs to be multi-generational, that's the point. But if it's really not your cup of tea, every third Sunday, there could even be a third Sunday brunch group. I'd be totally fine with that. You all can get together for brunch. Let me know if you need help connecting. Seriously. Clockwork so that you know when it is, so that you can come or not come as you wish. Okay? So this month our theme is democracy. I mentioned 2 Sundays ago that this lends itself a little bit more towards the act for justice part of our mission statement. Nonetheless, I've tried to bring in all the parts of our mission statement this month. We talked about beloved community a lot in the first Sunday. We went really deep, deconstructing Christian nationalist theology last Sunday. So that's part of our spiritual growth. is thinking theologically. And then we've talked about acting for justice. That was in really all of the sermons, and it'll be there again today. In coming months, the monthly themes change, and they're going to lend themselves a little bit more towards care, or a little bit more towards spiritual growth, or a little bit more towards justice. So you'll see that and you'll feel that. And also, I'm going to make an effort to hit all of those parts of our mission statement every month here in the worship service, because that's what we're here for. That's what we have said that we are about. So before I talk about this Sunday, I'm super excited that Reverend Morgan McLean, who recently started attending services here at Accotink with her family, will be our guest preacher next Sunday. That service will be a bridge from this month's theme of democracy into next month's theme of invitation. And that's right, next month's theme will be the practice of invitation. You have said that you want this congregation to grow, that you want to actively invite other people into Unitarian Universalism and into membership here at Accotink. So we're going to start off next month exploring hospitality. We'll start the month with 2 Sundays of membership book signings. We already have a handful of people who've said they want to sign on September 1st. And then we'll celebrate all the new members in our water communion multi-generational service on September 15th, the 3rd Sunday of the month. So what is it that we are inviting people into? What is Unitarian Universalism's message? And how does it relate to protecting democracy? What story are we telling to counteract the story of xenophobia and scapegoating? And what does that have to do with MAGA, Beyonce's Beehive, and Swifties? That's what we're going to explore later in the service. School is about to start, so we're going to bless some backpacks this morning. So if you have a backpack, can you go get your backpack? I saw some of y'all have backpacks. Get your backpacks. Get them ready, okay? Stay in your seats for now, but get them ready, okay? First of all, I want to know, does anyone here happen to like the music of Taylor Swift? Oh yeah, we got a few people. That's not surprising. 53% of Americans, it turns out, in a 2023 survey say that they're fans of Taylor Swift. 16% are avid fans. So that means there's as many Swifties in the United States as white evangelical Christians, okay? All right, so talk about playing to your base. So does anybody know about the Taylor Swift? There's this thing for the concerts and just in general to make friendship bracelets. Yeah. Anybody know about that? Yeah? Okay, some people know about that. So we're going to riff off that this Sunday. Now this idea was given to me by Kate McDevitt. Kate sent me a couple ideas at my request for the backpack blessing. Kate was inspired by the connection to Taylor Swift's friendship bracelets, but didn't know that was the topic for this Sunday. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so normally we have a keychain to give you, or last year we had a bookmark to give you. This year, you got to make your own. Okay, you got to make your own beaded keychain for your backpack or your briefcase. Yeah, I see some excitement out there. So you can put anything, we've got beads with letters on them. You can put any word or words you want on it, but I want to encourage you to think about like a word or a short phrase that you want to be reminded of when you're at school or work, going through your day. And you might pick something from our mission statement, like a verb from our mission statement, like welcome, care, inspire, grow, act, or you could choose one of the nouns, community, spirit, justice, home, or you could do, care, grow, act. Oh, care, grow, act over there?
Care, grow, act.
Nice, so you could do all three. You could do talking about 3-word combos. You could do care and community, or act for justice, or grow in spirit. You could also do that with our new UU values, right? Each of those 6 values has a single word version. So you could do justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, generosity, love, liberating love. Or you could choose a short phrase to describe those, which are also on our bookmarks. Honor the web of life, be beloved community. You get the idea. You could even come up with your own. Think about this, okay? This requires some creativity. Come up with your own short phrase for a UU value or 2, like be a friend to all, or stand up to bullies, right, for justice. Ask for help, offer help for generosity. I myself actually chose generosity because I find when I focus on generosity throughout the day, it inspires me to do more for others, which makes me both more productive and more happy. So Haya actually made this one for me, and it says generous, okay? So, I know you adults, they're going to make these in their spiritual development. The children and youth are going to make these in their spiritual development classes. So I know you all are really disappointed that you can't be down there with them making these bracelets. If you want to make these, there are going to be some children and youth who are going to help you, available to help you make them after the service. So if you want, you can mosey downstairs, or we might even bring some of the stuff upstairs for you to make your own friendship keychains, UU values keychains, Accotink mission keychains.
For those of us who like Taylor Swift music, we're not necessarily, avid.
Yeah.
Would you mind passing that around so I can see? I mean, you'll get it back, but passing it around.
Oh yeah, sure.
See what it looks like?
Sure, I'll pass it around in just a second. So the request was, for those who are less familiar with Taylor Swift's friendship bracelets, can I pass it around? And it's not a bracelet, so it's a variation. First of all, I just want to show, so it has a little clip. So once you make yours, you can attach it to your bag, okay? Like that, okay? All right. Maybe, Kate, are you willing to pass yours around as well? Yeah, okay, we got to get, Care, Grow, Act has to make it back to Kate, and Generous needs to make itself back to, can I be this generous? I can. All right, so let's have the children, or anybody who has a bag, come up here. I'm going to give a short blessing before we sing the children to their spiritual development classes, okay? Grab your bags. Come on up. All right. Haya's getting a bag. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Let's be quiet for this solemn moment of the blessing of the backpacks. We're going to bless the backpacks with some lyrics from a Taylor Swift song. So I'm going to bless these backpacks. I'm going to say, because there were pages turned with the bridges burned, everything you lose is a step you take. So make the friendship bracelets, take the moment and taste it. You've got no reason to be afraid. This is from a song called You're on Your Own, Kid. So that's what it says next. But we're actually not saying you're on your own, kid. We're saying we're right there with you, kids. You can face this. So that's the blessing. You can face this. You can learn the lessons. You've got no reason to be afraid.
This reading is called We Gather to Draw a Wider Circle by Reverend Gretchen Haley. In a world that feeds on moral outrage, we are here to cultivate moral courage. In a time that prizes picking sides, we gather to draw a wider circle. And in a culture that teaches us to get for what we give and to ask, what's in it for me? We come to practice generosity, and to remember we are all in this together. In the midst of life's bitterness, we choose to sing, to give thanks, to laugh together, and to be keepers of beauty, to offer a place of belonging for all who come, in gladness and in pain, to feel a part of something greater. Let us be the change we wish to see.
So some of you know that I'm a Swiftie. You might have heard me mention Taylor Swift a couple times in this sanctuary, on Easter, and then again on Earth Day. But I became a Swiftie quite by accident. And I have the two most important things in my life to blame for it: Unitarian Universalism and parenting. You see, just over a year ago, my family and I arrived early for Unitarian Universalism's General Assembly in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's why I've got this souvenir from the aviary in Pittsburgh on. Also, so you can see my stole better against the blue. We went early so that I could work on a project, some curriculum development with a UU colleague. And what we didn't realize was that Taylor Swift was performing in Pittsburgh that very weekend. Once we got there, we sure realized it was wild. The hotels were crammed with people dressed up in costumes for music videos, taking pictures with huge cardboard cutouts of Taylor Swift in the hotel lobby, BFFs getting inked up with matching Eras Tour tattoos, with lines around the block of the tattoo parlor. Now, I noticed when I said lobby that it reminded me of my favorite Taylor Swift song. And so I thought maybe I'd try to put this scene to you into that song. Selfies and cardboard cutouts for the party, wearing video costumes in the lobby, matching tattoos of a surprise song from folklore, BFFs forevermore. Sorry, I'm not a very good singer, but. So we didn't get tickets or tattoos, but we did people watch, and we had fun sitting on the bed in the hotel room watching Taylor Swift music videos. That was a turning point for me, but I didn't become a Swiftie overnight. In fact, all I really wanted to do was to understand better how to connect with my child. So I started listening to the podcast every single album. And before I knew it, before I'd even listened to a single album, I listened to over 15 hours of Nora Princiati and Nathan Hubbard talking about every single Taylor Swift album. But when I did finally start listening to the actual music, I was hooked. At one point, late in the fall, my spouse Lauren shared that she received a notification on our shared Amazon Music account that we were among the top 1% of Taylor Swift listeners. The top 1% of superfans among Swifties, the most superfanist of superfans. Now, initially, Lauren thought this was because of how much she and Haya were listening to Taylor. But then she learned how many playlists I'd made and how often I would take naps to my Folklore Evermore playlist. Yeah, I did that. Or, as Taylor would put it, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem, it's me. Now, people have different reasons for loving Taylor Swift's music. For me, it's the lyrics. She is a master songwriter, right up there with, who are some master songwriters? Burt Bacharach. Leonard Cohen. Joni Mitchell, yeah, Stevie Wonder. I might write an academic paper someday about Stevie and Taylor, because A Stevie song, Stevie makes songs in all genres, but you can always tell it's a Stevie song. And Taylor has gone through multiple genres, but you can always tell it's a Taylor song. I love Taylor's lyrics so much, I started playing a game where I would try to sneak Taylor lyrics into everyday conversation, which was super fun until it wasn't. Until it became super annoying and my child demanded that I stop. Though she did have fun doing it herself sometimes. So while we were in Pittsburgh, I read an essay published that very week in the New York Times. And here's how Suzanne Garfinkel Crowell, a psychiatrist specializing in adolescent girls and young women, describes Taylor's appeal. The Swiftie finds in Miss Swift an actual hero who meets her where she is, but also shows her the badass place she could get to. She hears Taylor say to her, "Borrow my strength, embrace your pain, make something beautiful with it." Whatever you are upset about, the poet laureate of this generation has got a song somewhere in her mega oeuvre describing that precise feeling. She is not going to solve whatever problem you are having, but she is going to sit with you in it until the passage of time does its work. What I hear this psychiatrist saying is that Taylor has a story for you. One that you can relate to as a human being, a complex human being who is vulnerable and insecure, but also competent and confident. At once longing for love and fully aware that you're on your own, kid, and you'll be okay. I've been wondering why we love pop music. And I think we love pop music because life is complex, confusing, and uncertain. And pop music gives us an escape from the madness while at the same time helping us make sense of it all. Allows us to step into a space game designers call the magic circle, a space with a simple set of rules we all agree to follow, and then a space where we're able to engage our creativity within the bounds of those limits. Pop music does that. Sports do a similar thing. When I'm watching a WNBA game, I don't know exactly what is going to happen. I don't know who will score when or how. I don't know which team will win or how. I don't know what is going to happen, but I know what isn't going to happen. I know there isn't going to be a hurricane arising out of nowhere in the middle of the game. No fossil fuel use is going to cause a climate crisis, a crisis without a simple solution, a crisis that needs a global response coordinating the actions of billions of citizens from multiple nations and including innovation from all the sectors of civilization, from agriculture to transportation, from energy technology to human behavior. When I'm watching the WNBA, I don't know what will happen. But unlike in my daily life, I know that no tyrant is going to try to distort democracy. No violent coup is going to overthrow the democratically elected government, something that hasn't happened yet in the United States, but could happen here, as it has in hundreds of places across the world throughout history, both ancient and recent. Watching a WNBA game, I get to enjoy not knowing what will happen, watching the players make magic happen within a limited set of options, all while wrapped up in the cozy comfort of knowing how low the stakes of the game really are. Pop music is similar. There's a rather limited set of chord changes that are pleasing to the ear. The melody needs to be restricted to an easily singable range. And while there is a seemingly endless number of rhymes, in reality, there is a finite and relatively small number of possibilities. Taylor knows this, because while she rhymes jackals with hackles and covert narcissism with altruism and fireplace ashes with sprinkler splashes, she's also a master of the false rhyme, the half rhyme, the almost rhyme. With a limited number of possible rhyming words, the songwriter especially one who's written well over 200 songs, needs these almost rhymes to keep from becoming redundant. The joy of pop music is the creativity exhibited within these limits. It's the magic of the unknown within a comforting field of knowns. Politics can also be like pop music, a distilled explanation for why things are the way they are and what we can do about it. Whether in politics or pop music, it matters what the message is. It matters that the message is straightforward, like in pop music. In the confusion, complexity, and uncertainty of life, we long for something to hold on to. We long for something to hold us together as a community, as a nation. Anat Shenker-Osario's research into political messaging gives us a recipe for how to do with messaging what Taylor Swift does with pop music. How to meet people where they are, but also show us the badass place we could get to. Here's how to apply the magic of pop music into political messaging. Begin by framing a shared value. Then define what is preventing this value from being made real in the world. And finish by painting an image of what we can come together to make the world a better place. Picture of how we can come together and what that world can look like. Now, Shenker-Osario emphasizes that when the problem is described in the middle, that it's important to name the villains. And important to identify not just what the villains are doing to obstruct fulfillment of the principle at hand, but also their motivation in doing that. Naming what the payoff for them is. So that's the recipe. Shared value, problem and villain, simple solution that's easy to implement. I think the MAGA movement does this very effectively. The shared value is right there in the slogan, "Make America Great Again." Bring back an experience of the good life, one that I used to believe in, one that I felt to be real at one point. And it doesn't seem to matter that this is a false myth. It doesn't seem to matter that we're nostalgically looking at the past through rose-tinted glasses. It's easy to feel, easy to grasp. It's visceral and compelling. And then they define the problem. The political establishment and the villains. The political establishment has ignored you and your problems. They've allowed millions of immigrants to enter the country illegally, stealing your jobs and threatening your safety with drugs and violence. Again, a false story, but it follows the messaging recipe. A shared value, a clear problem with a villain, and then we just need a way to fix the problem, some simple, straightforward solution. Bar immigrants from certain countries, build a wall, make another country pay for it. So what's our message? What's our pop song? Politically, I think the shared value is the journey towards a more perfect union, a multiracial, multicultural nation where everyone has an opportunity to live out the American dream. The WNBA, basically. The problem varies, but let's look at the examples that I shared 2 Sundays ago from the WNBA. Women athletes weren't being paid well enough, so players came together to negotiate the most progressive collective bargaining agreement in the history of professional sports. There was an epidemic of police violence, still is, against black people in America, so the players came together to protest and draw attention to the problem. A WNBA team owner who was also a senator at the time criticized the players for bringing politics into sports, so the players came together to promote a candidate who opposed her in the upcoming election, raising that candidate's profile from polling at just 9% to becoming the first black senator ever elected in the state of Georgia. In all of these examples, the solution is joining together to demand the policies that ensure that all people have access to the American dream. We do this here at Accotink through our postcarding to get out the vote. We do this by writing letters to our legislators. We do this by following the lead of our youth and collecting menstrual supplies for immigrant youth. We do this by showing up at voice assemblies. Raise your hand if you're going to be there September 29th. All right, we need a few more hands than that, so get to work, those of you who raised your hand. We do this by making meal packs for food insecure families in our local community, as we'll do next week after church. Now I want to note another thing about the model that the WNBA gives us. They didn't water down their message. And once they knew what their message was, they did three things. First, they stayed true to themselves and their values, and by doing this, they were able to craft a message that mobilized their base, that got all the people who shared their values excited so that they would share that message with others. That's the key to doing the second thing, engaging the base to persuade the middle. Now, an important note, again from Anat Shenker-Osaria, about the middle. We often think of the middle as holding centrist views, but what studies show is that the middle is actually a group of people who haven't made up their minds yet, who haven't made a decision yet. Shenker-Osaria describes the people in the middle as the good point people. They hear one explanation and they say, good point. Then they hear an opposing explanation and they again say, good point. So contrary to conventional wisdom, these are not people who prefer the mean between two poles. These are people who aren't sure which pole is their pole yet, which means they're persuadable, which means we have an opportunity to persuade them. And what Shenker-Osaria tells us is that what the middle is capable of believing in is what the base is excited to keep chanting. What the middle is capable of believing in is what the base is excited to keep chanting. It turns out that preaching to the choir is actually good strategy. How else is the world going to hear the music? Oh, and there's one other thing. You want a message that upsets the opposition, that really upsets the opposition, that gets them riled up. It's counterintuitive, but this is the any publicity is good publicity principle. Remember, the middle is persuadable. If you not only have the choir singing your song, but you also have the opposition talking about your song rather than singing their own, then they're helping to convince the persuadable middle that your song is the song. Even though they're opposing it, they're showing that it is the song to be singing. So let's borrow from another pop star for a moment and call these three things together: mobilizing the base to persuade the middle and trouble the opposition. Let's borrow from Beyonce and call that getting in formation. So that's politics. What about religion? I'll share an example of pop music messaging of religion from the book Restoring Faith, America's Religious Leaders Answer Terror with Hope, a collection of essays written in 2001 in response to 9/11. In the essay, Reverend Stephen Bauman, senior minister of Christ Church United Methodist in New York City, writes that he has three simple truths to share, expressed in 2 words each. So let's see how these three simple truths, these 6 words, fit Shenker-Osaria's messaging recipe. For Stephen Bauman, as a Christian, the shared value is that God is, that there's a deeper foundation we can root ourselves in. Remember, he preached this right after 9/11, when the shared foundation seemed to be disappearing. God is, there's a deeper foundation we can root ourselves in. For Reverend Bauman, the problem is humanity's ability to love one another. He said God loves, but then he talks about human relationships, and he says that we often forget and are reminded in times of crisis to make love the primary focus of our lives, to make relationships with those we love the focus. And even when we do that, we often fail at loving each other well. And for Reverend Bauman, as a Christian, the solution is that God saves. The solution is that despite our many flaws and failures, love is resurrected again and again. So what about for us as Unitarian Universalists? What's the foundation of our faith? What is the problem we are trying to address, and what is the solution? So I would say that our new covenant, centered around love and living out our shared values, does a good job of giving us that message. And that for us as UUs, we kind of skip over the whole God thing, and we go straight to love as the foundation. Love is at the center of Unitarian Universalism. Love is the power that holds us together. Love is the power that transforms our lives. Love is the power that transforms the world. So what about the problem? I happen to agree with Reverend Bauman and with Taylor. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem, it's me. Or rather, it's us. Hi, we're the problem, it's us. The problem is that we're often not that good in our personal lives or as a society at loving each other. So what do? We practice love. We practice love by covenanting to build and sustain accessible and inclusive communities, the equity value. We practice love by dismantling racism and all forms of systemic oppression, the value of justice. We practice love by celebrating our diversity, embracing our differences with love, curiosity, and respect, pluralism. We practice love by generously sharing our presence and our resources with one another. And for us, even though we practice all of those things and do them imperfectly, for us, the practice is its own reward. The practice is what saves. We practice love by being beloved community. So let's begin where we started, outside of a Taylor Swift concert in Pittsburgh. Taylor was in Pittsburgh for 2 nights. 2 nights, nearly 75,000 people each night. That's almost 150,000 people. You know what that means? That means as many Swifties attended the Eras Tour in Pittsburgh on one weekend as the total number of adult members of UU congregations in the United States. And estimates of the total number of people who came to Pittsburgh for the concerts was closer to 400,000. Maybe they stood outside and listened. Maybe they just wanted to be part of the festivities. According to polls, that's nearly the same number, 500,000, who identify as UUs but don't belong to a UU congregation. You see that? 3 times as many Americans identify as UU but aren't members as those of us who are members of UU congregations. It's a heck of a lot of UUs out there who aren't here today. I'm going to bring Beyonce back and say, we need to get in formation, y'all. I believe we have a hit song on our hands. We just need a choir to raise its voice in song. Okay, ladies, now let's get in formation. Chant it with me, y'all. Okay, ladies, now let's get in formation. Now, when I say ladies, I mean ladies in the way that we used to say men to mean men and women, okay? I mean everybody. Okay, chant it with me. Okay, ladies, now let's get in formation. Okay, ladies, now let's get in formation. Prove to me you got some coordination. One more time. Okay, ladies, now let's get in formation. Okay, ladies, now let's get in formation. All right, now get out there and persuade some persuadables, y'all. And center our religion in love and share that message with the world. Let's circle around for our community blessing, but a reminder to stay for our social hour and also to make keychains if you want. Okay? But let's circle around for a community blessing. We're going to say the original blessing again this Sunday, and next week we'll say the adapted version.
This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences and beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time, death, and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to that unity. Gathered together in this welcoming and inclusive spiritual home, let us go out into the world nourished, rejuvenated, and inspired to share our values.